about the drug war. Keep the border open so the drug war can flow and the good times can roll in the banks.
Sure. Isn't it in the larger picture a game of musical chairs to use the increasingly worthless money until the music stops and buy up real assets and for those in power to position themselves?
Right. In the meantime, the middle class gets destroyed. Everybody who believes in the values of government is trying to live an honest life is in a diminished capacity, and the thieves are having a field day. And when the currencies collapse, the ones that will be having any wealth at all will still be the thieves. And then, like in the Depression, they'll run around and buy the hard assets that are left, re-ante, and do it all over again. When I wrote America for Sale, I warned people that this globalism is a scheme devised by the globalists to further enrich the banks and the globalists. And the government officials that play along are going to get enriched in the process.
Now, switching gears, Dr. Corsi, obviously there's a lot of cynicism towards the elections in general. We always seem to get the lesser of two evils to choose from. But an even bigger question is Obama even eligible? Obviously, that's been a huge question in your work. But now we've got the Georgia judge, I believe he's about to rule within a day or two's time on whether or not Obama has proven himself eligible. He didn't show up for the hearing. And that could spread, as you mentioned before, to other states. Where do you see that going?
Well, I think it's going to be a 50-state challenge, state by state. The administrative law judge in Georgia has very little time to make the decision. The Georgia primary, Democratic primary, I believe, is on March 6th, and the ballots have to be printed or reprinted if Obama's name is going to be taken off the Democratic primary ballot. And the president's attorney didn't show up. The judge indicated he was ready to do a default judgment. Clearly, the judge has already said there was going to be no motion to dismiss the procedure that the president had made such a motion. The judge refused to grant it, saying that the laws that the president cited were not controlling. And that's very bad news for the White House, because what it kind of telegraphs is that this judge may be going more in the direction of Minor v. Happersett, requiring natural-born citizens to be eligible to be president to have two U.S. citizen parents at birth and born in the United States, and Barack Obama probably is disqualified on both counts. His father was Kenyan, never a U.S. citizen. The arguments were made at the court that the birth certificate's a fraud, a forgery. And in Indonesia, Obama may also have lost his natural-born citizenship status. He was Barry Soetoro officially, Barry Soribarka, when his mother removed him from her passport. How can a person have an Indonesian surname and still be a natural-born U.S. citizen? It's not possible.
Right. And so, obviously, this should have been dealt with before Barack Obama ran the first time. But
Yes.
now that he's running the second time, if people do accept the idea that he's not eligible, what kind of crisis of confidence is this going to create? What's going to happen to our entire country?
Well, first of all, I think it clearly is going to be a major detriment to Obama getting reelected. If one state fights and keeps Obama off the ballot, how's he going to win presidency of Georgia or several other states along with Georgia say to Obama, you're not going to be on the ballot, you're not a natural-born citizen? Problem's not going away. It might even get it to the point where there's a constitutional crisis and his current presidency is questionable, whether he's a usurper. But remember, we've also got Sheriff Arpaio conducting a law enforcement investigation in Maricopa County in Arizona for the Tea Party residents who have asked and petitioned that sheriff look into whether Obama is eligible to be president. And that report is going to come out at the end of February. Now, Sheriff Arpaio is doing the first law enforcement investigation. It's a very serious, very professional investigation. And I think that the president ought to be deeply concerned what the results are going to be. The sheriff has already said some of the results are going to be shocking. Well, let's hold the sheriff at his word. And again, we'll have the results there. And the issue is unlikely to go away, going to continue to be debated. And a law enforcement determination is going to have to make some impact on millions of Americans.
Yeah, it's outrageous. So where do you see the final direction going? They're building up for war in Iran. The economic crisis continues. Where are we going in general, Doctor?
Well, I think we're headed to some major crises. I think it's not clear today whether the EU is going to be able to get a new refinancing in place for Greece. Greece today says it needs $20 billion more. I mean, the truth is Greece is bankrupt. It's got a social welfare state. They're paying out entitlement benefits they can't afford. And Germany's going to have to cover Greece, which I don't think is going to happen. Iran and Israel even today is again making statements that all of the nuclear facilities in Iran could be hit by a preemptive Israeli military strike. This is the first time Israeli officials have been making statements like this. And I think it again telegraphs that a real shooting war is about to start in the Middle East. I think the covert war, the secret war with Israel and Iran has already started. These assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists, the explosions in Iranian nuclear facilities, the hands of Israeli intelligence and probably U.S. intelligence are all over those kinds of operations. I think the war's already begun.
Certainly. Have you seen the Brookings Institute report, Which Path to Persia, where they discuss everything from a velvet color revolution to another false flag, as well as economic sanctions and other means to start that war?
Well, I think yes, I have, and I think the best path, the one I've been fighting for since I wrote Atomic Iran in 2005, was for peaceful change from within, and we had the opportunity for that. If you remember, in June, I believe it was 2009, when the presidential election was held in Iran, the velvet, you had it was a green revolution. You had all the Iranians in the streets protesting. All Obama had to do was say that he supported the people in the streets to get freedom and a change of government. Obama didn't do it, and we lost a huge opportunity. I think a war is going to be disastrous. I've been against a war. Remind people it's not, it's not an electronics game here. There's going to be thousands of people killed. The war is unpredictable. It could lead to a regional war. It could be nuclear in scope. I've been praying and doing everything I can, writing, to try to convince people that a war is the worst solution. And the Iranians, I walked 200 miles with the Iranian freedom fighters in the United States after I wrote the book in 2005, calling for freedom in Iran. The Iranian people want freedom. We have no problem with the Iranian people. It's this Iranian government that is a group of radical religious zealots that, in fact, are going to pursue a nuclear weapon and will not be stopped by sanctions or negotiations. When the world comes to recognize that, war is still not the only solution. And I pray that we could be more intelligent and support the people within Iran who want to change their own government from within. We don't need to do it for them. We shouldn't do it. We shouldn't be involved. But in a war, it's going to involve, I think, regionally, the United States almost immediately, and it has the potential of becoming a war that could escalate out of control.
Doctor, looking back over the past year, what does it say about the U.S. and the NATO allied forces that in fighting Libya and now look like in fighting Syria, we've allied with al-Qaeda forces, actual members of al-Qaeda? Well,
I've been writing about this in WND and objecting to it. This was all billed as the Arabian Spring. This all like it was a burst of freedom in the region. Obama knew what he was doing. This was a move to radicalize the Middle East. The winners were the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood, which there's not a more radical force in the Middle East. This is a force that today we're seeing controlling a military dictatorship. It's going to be in Egypt. Americans are going to have to get out. It's not going to be democracy. The Muslim Brotherhood controls the voting, votes in a much higher proportion, wins control of the government, and stops elections. We've just seen a radicalizing of the Middle East, and it's going on country by country by country. Assad in Syria is being again besieged by the Muslim Brotherhood forces. And I mean, Assad was a dictator and no gem, an ally with Iran, but what's coming into Syria is probably going to be worse. And Obama, again, either knowingly participated in engineering this or didn't understand it, which I don't believe, and didn't take the steps necessary to be on the right side. We've been on the wrong side consistently a side of forces that are not going to impose democracy and freedom in these countries throughout northern Africa and the Middle East, Syria, Libya, etc. But it's going to become a Muslim radical group of countries that will ally, even though they're Sunnis, will ally with Iran and cause the Middle East to be a much more dangerous region for everyone.
Now, in closing, and feel free to add any other topics you want to bring up, to what extent are we being driven by the Western foreign policy wonks who've wanted a clash of cultures and who in many senses are building up an artificial extremism in the Middle East to build up an enemy?
Well, I think there's a good deal of that. And I also put it squarely at the globalists on both sides, you know, the Henry Kissingers and the Zbigniew Brzezinskis, who had this grand idea of causing all these crises in order to gain more power. You know, the EU and the euro collapses, well, advance the International Monetary Fund in a global currency. That's been the plan. I think it's going to fail miserably. But the tragedy is that the world is going to go through a period of economic depression and wars that could be a prelude to like World War I, World War II. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, there's going to be millions of people in economic misery, millions of people in warfare. This is a formula for having descend on the earth the kind of catastrophes economically and with governments and military conflicts that we haven't seen since World War II. And when I try to calculate the millions of people that died in World War II, what's coming could make World War II look like a minor event. That's what I fear.
And what a shame, too. I mean, obviously the water is muddy on all sides of this issue, but most of all, I think we really don't want that larger war because it would be so devastating. The
point is, what I've been writing for so much, to get to the truth, if we get back, for instance, to the principles our founding fathers in the Constitution, go back to the 10th Amendment, say to the federal government, we don't want to participate anymore. Mm-hmm. Government does not need to have greater power and to be aggrandized at a greater level. We need people to be in control of their own lives. We need the media to stop being a political media, making millions of dollars telling the global story, while all along the people are lied to and not given the truth. The internet, shows like Alex's, are great resources, but we've got to get back to the fundamental reality that we, the people in the United States, are sovereign, not the government in Washington.
And we'll leave it there for today. We look forward to future updates from you. Dr. Jerome Corsi, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Take care. And that's it for tonight's Infowars Nightly News, but we do want to remind you of our specials. We're not corporate funded, we're not foundation funded, and we're trying to get out a message to stop what they have designed. So with that in mind, we want to remind you we have 44% off of a yearly subscription right now. That ends on Friday, so take advantage of that offer now. And you can also take a 15-day free trial. Take a look for yourself. See if it's something you want to support. We're available on other platforms as well, but we do need your help getting that message out so we can grow this mission. Thank you and good night.